Hello, everyone. I have thought of three different types of books that I want to look into regarding that subject, like I do with books that take place in a certain state or a certain country. So, this is the first one of the additional three, and this one has to do with natural disasters. So, what are some books that take place around a natural disaster, or that is like the one of the focal points of the book? I have five here that I'm going to talk about. And the first natural disaster that I looked for books is earthquake. Um, and just thinking about it makes me get very anxious. I have been in one before. It was like a 5 point something, I believe. I can't remember. 5.7, I think. I don't know. Could be wrong on that. First one I ever experienced. Never want to go through that again. No. No, thank you. I don't really want to experience any of these, but yeah, that was just unsettling. So, okay, let's go ahead and get into it. Number one is The Rift, and that is by Walter John Williams. This is an adult sci-fi, and it is post-apocalyptic. So this one, in America, there's an earthquake that takes place that it's an 8.9 on the Richter scale. And this takes place in the heartland of America. There are people that, when the earthquake happens, it creates this huge rift. So the landmass has started to separate, and people can see down into it, but of course it's black and all of that. But people have fallen to their deaths by falling into this rift that earthquake created. And it not only did this rift physically create, but it also seems to show rifts in society. It exposes those fractures in society, is what it says. So from that rift, people also get lost around it because there's this sulfuric smell that rises. And they get lost in this mist. And one of the other things that I think will be hard with this book to read, and so this is definitely from the synopsis a trigger warning, but there's this man it mentions. I don't remember the name that they said, and he's not I gather, well, he might be one of the main characters in the book. I can't remember, but this man in the book is part of the KKK, and he wants to seek racial vengeance. So that's going to be disturbing to read, but that is The Rift by Walter John Williams. Number two that I will talk about is After the Quake by Haruki Murakami. This one is adult fiction, and it is short stories. I'm kind of interested in reading some of these. I'm finding that I'm kind of gravitating towards reading more short stories. I actually kind of like them. And they're fairly new to me. I'm still kind of iffy about some of them, especially when they're fiction. I don't know. I haven't read any nonfiction short stories yet, but I am interested in some of the short stories. So, After the Quake by Haruki Murakami. This is set in 1995 with the Kobe earthquake, and all it says is that upheavals happen and human meets inhuman. That is like the shortest synopsis that I have ever read. Probably because since it's short stories, it can't do a full synopsis, but somehow I'm hoping that they'll intertwine. We'll see, but I do look forward to getting to that sometime. Okay, number three, A Crack in the Edge of the World. This is by Simon Winchester, and this one is a nonfiction. This is an adult nonfiction. It didn't say specifically adult, but I am leaning towards adult. I think most of the nonfiction ones that'll come up will be mostly written for an adult audience unless it states otherwise, at least on Goodreads. So I could be wrong about the intended audience for this particular edition I may pick up. But Earthquake, nope, A Crack at the Edge of the World. This follows, and this is interesting, this one follows the San Francisco earthquake and fire of 1906. Now, I read a fiction book not that long ago. Can't remember the title of it. I really enjoyed that book, but of course I can't remember the title of it. But it took place in the early 1900s, and at one point, one of the main characters is in an asylum, and while she is in that asylum, being treated horribly, of course, the San Francisco, it takes place in San Francisco, and that major earthquake hits, and all the fire and everything, and so you're watching the character deal with that. But I really liked that book too, and that was my first glimpse of going, okay, I've heard about that, and that was the first reminder of that earthquake that I've very briefly heard about, and so I definitely want to read more about that. So I look forward to getting to that nonfiction one. Okay, number 4, Earthquake at Dawn. This one's by Christina Gregory, and it's a YA historical fiction. This also takes place, I think most of the earthquake ones I find will take place in San Francisco in 1906, since that was such a big, huge deal, of course. Anyway, so April 1906 in San Francisco, it says 2 women set out to document devastation through photography. Now, this is why part of the reason why I'm really intrigued for this one is it says it is based on the real life of Edith Irvine. So I want to read that book, and then I want to look into a book of Edith Irvine and read more about her, since there is a fictional book based on her life. So I think that'll be interesting to read. Okay, so the 5th book is called One Amazing Thing, and this is by this name I'm not gonna say right. Shitra Banerjee Devakaruni. Not sure about that one. Anyway, this is also short stories. I'm assuming adult. So this one takes place there in a immigration office. So, and the it doesn't say if it's the San Francisco one. It's a passport and visa. So basically an immigration office in the USA. Big earthquake happens, and you have, I think it said 5 immigrants and 2 people that work there, or 3 immigrants and 2. Anyway, I know there's 2 workers, and then there's a group of immigrants. So like 5 and 2 or 3 and 2, something like that. But they kind of come together to try and help each other through this devastation and disaster that has happened. And in order to do that, they start telling people these, what does it call them? Amazing. They tell everyone to help cope with the stress and help people get through things. They start kind of going around and telling their own life stories and about amazing things that have happened in their lives, basically up to that point, something that's happened in the past. So I think that'll be really cool, kind of like that twist of, stories to help kind of bring people together, create that camaraderie, and get through a very stressful and scary situation. So those are the 5 books that I actually really want to read that focus and center around the natural disaster of an earthquake. I think these will be very interesting. I am more excited. I'm excited about the one based on Edith Irvine, but I think out of all of them, even more so than that, I am more intrigued for the ones that are the short stories, especially the one that takes place in the immigration office, that last one I talked about. But I'm excited to, at some point, get to these. My list of books I want to read just keeps growing and growing. I don't know when I'll get to them, but they are on my list. I really want to read these, so hopefully sooner rather than later, but we will see. But that's it for this one. In the description box, you will find my social media information if you would like to be friends on any of those platforms. Instagram, Bookstagram. So I have my personal Instagram, Bookstagram, Twitter, Goodreads, things like that. So yeah, if you want to be friends on any of those platforms, I would love to be friends with other people on those platforms as well. But that's it for this video. So until next time, stay true to yourself and enjoy a good book. And I will talk to you later.